this week, Trae Young. It was reported that he is likely going to be on the move ahead of the February 5th NBA trade deadline. Charania with the report that Atlanta and Young are working together on the steps to move on. Each side are going to go their separate ways, and Trae Young is going to be traded before the deadline this season. And the question that a lot of people have been asking themselves on Heat Twitter, and they asked me on our Tuesday Timberwolves Heat live show, should Miami trade for Trae Young? I'm going to go through on today's episode my thoughts on Trae Young as a player, if Miami should do it, and do I believe Miami would be interested in Trae Young here? And I think that's where we're going to start, because Miami is always going to be linked. The Heat just always are in the conversation when it comes to a star potentially being on the move because of the history that we've seen with Pat Riley throughout his career as an executive. One, I think this is starting to get a little old in my opinion, because when was the last time Pat Riley actually got anything done? They're basically just the rumors kings nowadays. But I don't expect them to show interest in Trae Young. This is not the first time Young has been linked to Miami. It simply hasn't. It's been like maybe the fourth or fifth time. And each time it becomes more and more obvious that Miami, specifically Pat Riley in that front office, do not like Trae Young as a player and are not intrigued with adding him to their roster. I mean, 5 Reasons Sports Network, Ethan Skolnick, who I would argue has the kind of pulse of the front office and Pat Riley better than anyone, said yesterday that Davion Mitchell is better for the Heat than Trae Young is in what the Heat believe in, which just tells you that I don't think there is a world where Miami really pursues Trae Young on the trade market. I mean, if they really believe that Davion Mitchell is a better fit and they'd rather have him as a player due to his mentality, toughness, defensive prowess, then there is just no way that you would ever say Miami gets involved in the Trae Young sweepstakes. But I'll give you my thoughts here in a second. But make sure you do subscribe to the channel, turn those notifications on, because as the trade deadline gets closer, our coverage will ramp up. Make sure that notification is turned on to all so you never miss any content we put out. I do find it kind of ironic. No, when you talk about the Heat never being interested in Trae Young, considering he is eerily similar to a Mr. Tyler Hero. And by the way, before you guys go nuts in the comment section, I'm a Tyler Hero guy. I've been one of his biggest supporters since he was drafted in 2019. I've told the story before, but when he was taken out of Kentucky in that draft, I ran out around my house in celebration because he was my favorite guy coming out for Miami that year, and I loved watching him at Kentucky. But as we've seen his career just continue to progress, it has a lot of the same similarities as a Trae Young, right? No defense, not really the most conducive player to winning, and every reason why Miami would not be interested in Trae Young is because of his inability to stay on the court, his inability to defend, to impact winning potentially at the highest level. And he's kind of just a numbers guy. Well, no offense to Tyler, but isn't that kind of what Hero is at this point? Tyler's only had 1 year in his career where he's consistently been able to stay on the court. That was last season, and it didn't help Miami at all, right? They were still the 10th seed in the East, lucked into a couple play-in wins, and then got embarrassed in the playoffs against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Trae Young, back in the day, was impactful. I mean, in his first couple of years, he took Atlanta all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals, albeit in a very weak Eastern Conference at the time. Young has declined every single year of his career, really is the case. And with him missing time this year, only playing in 10 games, he's not having the best year. And everyone would like to say, oh, he's still an elite three-point shooter. That's not the case. Like, his three-point shooting isn't that good. He's a volume three-point maker. But if you want to just go based off efficiency, he is not that good of a three-point shooter, consistently shooting sub 36% from three. Like, you can make an argument that the Heat should trade for Trae Young because he is still a really good creator in the pick and roll. But to me, if you trade for Trae Young, you would have to completely overhaul your entire roster to fit him. When you have a player of his skill set, you build around him. Now, would he unlock Ware and Bam in the pick and roll? Absolutely. It would be a great match for the two big men in the front court. But you're not going to have Hero on the team. I don't think Powell really fits next to Trae Young. Wiggins can fit, but then Davion Mitchell heads to the bench. You'd also have to change your offensive scheme because Trae Young excels in the pick and roll. But the Heat run the fewest pick and rolls in the NBA. So if you trade for Trae Young, I think you have to overhaul your offensive scheme. You have to overhaul your roster. And is Miami willing to do that for one guy that they aren't even the biggest fans of? No, probably not. But I'll ask you, I don't think the Heat are interested, but would you trade for Trae Young? Type T for trade or type P for pass. Look at Trae Young's contract now, because a large part of the reason he is likely going to be dealt is his contract, right? He only has 1 year left on his deal, and it is not guaranteed. Now, is he going to opt into that player option? I would assume so, because I actually don't know if a team is going to give him a new contract that exceeds $48.9 million. Seems like there's not a lot of interest around the league in Trae Young, but is an unrestricted free agent in 2027 or 2028. So if you trade for Trae Young, you do that with the thought in mind that you are going to extend it. Now, what is that price point on a Trae Young extension? Who knows? Because like I said, the overall value of Young across the league isn't really that high. Now, the four teams that I've seen get linked to Trae Young is the Wizards, Bucks, Timberwolves, and Clippers. Obviously, no Miami on here, even though some people speculate, well, maybe the Heat could get interested. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think they do. And if you are thinking about where Trae Young might ultimately land as an unbiased NBA viewer, I do think Washington and Milwaukee make the most sense. Two teams that Miami obviously plays consistently in the Eastern Conference. Washington's in the Heat's division. They've been the one linked the most. Apparently, they could offer a guy like Alex Johnson, or AJ Johnson, CJ McCollum's expiring contract, and 1 first-round pick, and get that trade done. That's how low Trae Young's value is. I think Milwaukee's a team to monitor, and that certainly impacts Miami, because as the Bucks continue to get desperate to appease Giannis Antetokounmpo and build a contending team around him, maybe they try to trade a Kyle Kuzma and Ryan Rollins and draft capital to go get Trae Young to set up a young Miles Turner, Giannis kind of trio in Milwaukee. Does that win anything? No, probably not. And it's just a lesser version of what they've had over the past couple of years with Damian Lillard, which has not panned out. But the point I'm trying to make, I don't think Miami's interested in Trae Young, and I think he's definitely going somewhere else if traded. More coming up, but this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. The new year is here. You might start a new routine, try out new things, and if that's making player picks for the first time, Prize Picks is the best way to get in on the action. It always feels good to be right on Prize Picks with high-pressure playoff matchups, elite hoops. The action never stops, and Prize Picks lets you take control. With a new social feeds feature, you can share Prize Picks with your friends and copy lineups from winners with a single click. Copy your lineups you like or use them as inspiration for your own picks. You can even follow Prize Picks partners like us and tailor fade our picks with just one click. Available now in all 50 states. My entry for the playoff action this weekend: more than Colson Loveland touchdowns, more than DJ Moore rushing yards, and more than Drake May passing yards. That is my 3-player entry. Big fan of it here. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Final word on Trae Young in this video before we move on and talk other trade topics for Miami. Personally, because I've really only given my opinion on what I think Miami is going to do, but if you're asking me and if you put me in the front office chair, I don't think I would trade for Trae Young. Like, I think I'm holding off there due to the contract, the physical limitations, the defensive issues. I don't think I would be in on Trae Young. Now, the only way that you can convince me it's a good idea is if it's a 1-for-1 player swap. Like, it's Tyler Hero for Trae Young, straight up, you wipe your hands clean and move on. Now, would that be the actual trade? Probably not, because the salaries don't really match. Hero making around $33 million right now. Trae obviously in the 45, so you'd have to attach a Simone Fontecchio or attach Terry Rozier and then take back a second player from Atlanta in the trade. But I just don't think Miami will do it. And does it really make sense for Miami to do that trade in general? I don't know. Like, wouldn't you rather just have Tyler Hero at that point because he's cheaper since they're so similar at this point? I probably would rather have Tyler Hero. But if you want Trae Young, the only trade I would justify is Hero and salary. No draft capital involved. I'm not sinking any future draft picks into Trae Young. Here's another point, though, that I want to make. This front office is washed, guys. Like, I saw people talk about it on Twitter after the game last night against Minnesota, where Miami got absolutely embarrassed in the second half by the Timberwolves. This front office is holding us back. A lot of you guys want to talk about Bam making $50 million and only averaging 12 points over the last 12 games. Rightfully so. That's not okay. It's not acceptable. Even though Bam isn't making $50 million, he's only making 37. It jumps to 50 next year. But you guys get my point. The real reason why Miami is struggling is because they have players playing out of their roles. And this front office refuses to make any seismic changes to the roster. You can blame Bam for struggling offensively. You can. But you also have to realize that is not who he is. Like, you look at 3 starting players for Miami, and they are playing out of their depth right now. Bam is your best player on this team. He's your max contract guy. Does he deserve to be the number 1 option on a team that hopes to compete? No, he does not. I'm a Bam dude. Everyone knows that. He is a number 3 at this point in his career. He lacks the offensive ability to be a top 2 guy. Where his value is in the locker room and as a top 5 defensive player in the league. And for the people that want to criticize his defense out there and say it's not impactful, just do me a favor and look up the Heat's defensive rating with Bam on and off the floor. It is a wild, wild difference in a positive way for Bam to justify his defense. But he's not a number 1 guy. He's a number 3. But Miami is forcing him to be that number 1 dude. That's why the Heat struggle at times. Davion Mitchell is awesome. He's a lot of fun, great defender, but he is an inconsistent offensive player. He's been that his entire career, and he should not be a starting point guard. If you want to win, he is not a starting point guard. He's a really good player that thrives as a change of pace pit bull off of the bench. You got to have a better starting point guard. And Andrew Wiggins. Can he be a starter in the league on a winning team? Yeah, he was for the Warriors. But what was the difference between Andrew Wiggins now and that Warriors team? That Golden State team was so predicated around Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, where Andrew Wiggins just really took a back seat and just kind of did the little things. Defended, hit, catch, and shoot threes, got offensive rebounds. But too many times this year, Andrew Wiggins is relied on in this Heat scheme to be an offensive creator. He can't do it. He's horrible. He has no bag, no handle. Every time he drives, it feels like it goes into a contested step back, a turnover, or he drives into 3 people and takes a bad shot. Just like these 3 guys are playing out of their positions, out of their roles, which is why Miami is struggling. To me, this front office is so stuck in their old ways. They're so stubborn that they don't see that this team is going to be mediocre until they make a seismic change. We need a reset. Miami needs to take its medicine, trade one of Tyler Hero and Norman Powell. You probably lean Norman Powell because he's older, having a career year, and you probably would like to keep Hero. But if we're going to make an honest assessment of the Heat, are the Heat going to win a title with Powell or Hero on the roster in the next 4 years? Absolutely not. So realistically, they should trade both of them. Get a first-round pick for Powell at the deadline. Trade Hero for a younger kind of player guy. Like maybe it's like a Jaden Ivey and draft capital. Do the same thing for Andrew Wiggins. And then just build around your young core. See what you can do with Yakachonis, Jaquez, Jovic, Ware. I mean, the Heat aren't going to trade Bam. For everyone out there that's just like, trade Bam, trade Bam, trade Bam. It's not going to happen, even if it is a conversation worth having. The Heat simply will not do that. I don't think they will even trade Tyler Hero, but I think they should. I think they should. That'll do it for today's show. Appreciate everybody for hanging out with us here on today's episode. We'll be live again on Thursday for Heat Bulls, and we'll have videos going out over the weekend as well with the latest on Miami, so make sure you subscribe.